Hey everybody, today I will show you how you can build fully functional and fully customizable API endpoints in less than 5 minutes by using NoCode-X and its built-in generative AI tools. So let's just dive in and let's see how we can do this. So first of all, you open NoCode-X. I have an application built here as a demo application. I head over to the API section of the editor. I open up the API overview, I hit create, and then I get the choice of how I want to create my API. First of all, I can create an API from scratch, but I showed that in another video. I don't have time for that in this video. So let's explore the other options. We can create a CRUD API, which actually means that there will be a create endpoint, there will be a read endpoint, an update endpoint, a delete endpoint, and a find endpoint for a certain data format. So if I have a data format inside my application already, I can create a CRUD API for that data format. Of course, I can create each endpoint separately, so I also have the option to just create a creation API, a read API, an update API, delete API, and a find API. Now, I don't have a data format in my application at the moment, so we need something else. So I can also choose to create a CRUD from text, and I'll hit that button. So what is the meaning of this? I have to create, I want to create a certain set of APIs, so I want to create a create, read, update, delete, and find API. I don't have data format in my application, so I just have to describe how my data looks that I want to expose through my API. So let's say create a table for students containing first name, last name, birth date, and average score. So once I hit create, the generative tools are starting to work, and they will hit me with a suggestion on how they would want to create this student schema or student data format, so to say. So they included a few the properties that I mentioned. First name of type text. They said, okay, last name of type text, birth date of type date, and then average score of type number. I now notice that I have forgotten one of the properties, so let's add it right here, student ID. And that is of type text, of course. Voila. So let's hit save, and then my data format is being created, and the next thing is that all the APIs that I requested are also being created. So as you can see here, this is my data format. All the fields that I've mentioned are in here. I have a read a single student schema API. I have a read a list of student schemas API here. I have a create a single student schema. I have update a single student schema, and I have delete a single student schema. So let's try the create. So let's copy the endpoint. Of course, this is a post method. And let's head over to Postman. So voila, copy it in here, and already here I have a request body that I want to send. So my first name is Tristan, last name Van Poeken, and so on. So let's hit the send button here. So I get a 200 OK. So if I head down to my built-in database, my new student should be in there. So if I open this up, I see there is one record which is called new student schema, and I see that all the information that I passed along with the request is right here. So now if I want to read a certain student, I can use the read a list student schema not students, read a single student schema API. So let me just open this up. Read a single student schema API. Let's copy this endpoint. And then what I have to do is I have to pass along an ID. And let me just fetch that ID from my database. Just a second. Copy this ID. Voila, send it. And I have now a 404. So let me just check what went wrong here. Of course, this is not a post. that I have to do. I have to do a get. So, and the get does not have a request body. So let me just change that, and voila. Now I get the data returned from my database. So that's pretty easy. Let us try and let's try and create another one. So I open up the call that I just did. Voila. I change the body. Let's change it to Tristan 222. And let's also change the average score to something else. So voila, we all already know this is gonna work, but let's now try and read the list of students. So I head over to the API, read the list of student schema, I copy the endpoint again, and let us try this. I do a get, of course, and pass no request body. So I do this, and then I get the total amount of the response is 2. I get a list of content, and those are the students that are in my database. They all have an ID, and I can use this to do other things. Of course, the cool thing here is that I can start using the parameters that are on those actions. I'll show you in a minute, but for example, we have a parameter called page and amount. So if I wanted to fetch the first page, and I wanted to fetch configure the amount of each page, set it to 1, I just pass along these parameters, I hit send, and then I get 1 student returned from the database. Of course, the total amount in my database is 2, so if I have to use it, I can use that total amount to make sure that I fetch it all by fetching the next page as well. So this is the other page. So you can use these parameters. We also have other parameters that you can use. For example, you can use filters. Those are all in there. For example, if I wanted to filter only the students where the first name equals Tristan, I only get that student from my query. If I wanted to fetch the other student, I would have to add 2, and then I would get the other student. Now, this I can do with each field on my students. So, for example, if I wanted to fetch, let's just say, average score of 50. So I only want to get the students that have an average score of 50, then I get a response like this. And of course I can adjust equals as well. So I can use, for example, contains, or I can use, let me just check what other parameters are on this action. So we have filter, and then we have equal, and we have, for example, a less than or greater than. So let's just use greater than, and we want all the students that have an average score which is greater than 40. So let's just test if this completely works, because if I have no students that have an average score of 80 or greater average score of 80 in my database. So yeah, this completely works. So you can use every single filter that you can think of with this list. So that's a cool thing about this. Okay, let's try out the update a single student endpoint. So I copy the endpoint again. An update is of course always a put. So let me just grab here a previous request that I did. There's still a body inside this one. Okay, so along with an update, you always have to pass along an ID, or else the update won't work, of course. So let me just find an ID for an ID that I want to for a student that I want to change. So let's up the average score of this student to, like, for example, or let's put it down to 40. And I hit send, and I now have an error which says that I couldn't find this endpoint, and that is of course because I used the post method again, so I have to change it to put. And voila, now I get a 200. Okay. And if I just refresh this data, you'll see that the average score has been put down to 40. So I can update data anytime I want. And of course, last but not least, I can use the delete endpoint. So let's do that. Of course, with delete, you'd use the delete method, and then you also pass along the correct ID. So let me just grab that ID real quick. I copy it, I pass it along here. There is no body in a delete method. Voila. I get a 200 OK returned. And now if I open up my database, I only have one record left, and that's this one. So let's just copy this one and delete this one as well. Voila. So my database should be cleaned right now. So let's find out if that's okay. So that happened. So no more data in my database. Now, and this really gets you started by building an API really quickly. As you can see, I've just done it in like 5 minutes time, even less. But the coolest thing about this, the real absolutely coolest thing about this, is that everything that's generated for you is completely customizable. So so you can head into the no code part of the logic behind those endpoints, and you can change this in any way you want. So for example, if you wanted to, when you're reading a student or when you're fetching a student, you wanted to check if the user that is actually calling the API has certain rights, and you want to send, expose certain data to certain users and not expose other data to other users, you can do so. If you want to, for example, when you fetch a student, you want to fetch some data from another endpoint and then completely expose that data, or combine it with the user data in your database and expose that towards your users of your API, you can do so as well. So yeah, the sky is really the limit here with everything that you can do with this feature. We are all about complete customization within NoCode-X. So we try to build everything as customizable as possible, and also make it as easy as possible to start up. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to know more about NoCode-X, please watch our other videos. Also, please try NoCode-X. It's free for you to use, so anyone can just make an account and start building. So I hope you keep on watching these videos. I hope you try it for yourself. So yeah, see you next time. Bye.